12 o'clock.
All right, let's call the December 7th Pearl Harbor Day 2021 meeting of Parks and Rec. Order first item of business is public input. Anybody out there from the public have anything they want to say? Sir, if you would, maybe walk up to the mic, state your name and talk about the East Valley.
My name is Bob Cashman, 83-year-old resident. And I,
Your address.
1632 Wilson Street. At the town board meetings in the past, they used to announce the amount of kilowatt hours that the generator was putting out. So, I presume it's like the clubhouse, it's not working anymore,
The generator is still in operation. It's still producing power.
Oh.
Yeah, that's separate from the clubhouse.
or you just don't make the announcements anymore?
Yeah, I wasn't aware that they made the announcements previously, but yeah, they continue
Talking
to.
about the town board or the town, the park board?
The town says it belongs to the park.
Well, that's true, but I don't know that we ever made an announcement. I think we used.
With that monthly energy report
Yeah.
together. when
Yeah, that's
they
right.
put it in the order.
Yeah, I do remember that. now.
So you just want to know how many kilowatt hours this is going on for? Do we have that information readily available, so, or can we
I
send it
don't-
to them?
I don't have it, but the clerk's office gets a report from NIPSCO as far as payments. And I'm sure the payments include the kilowatt hours. They get a report every month from NIPSCO on that, from, as far as what we sell back to them. So
Can-
that's
can-
something.
once we get it,
the
can we
clerk's
send it to
office
them?
can get.
So he doesn't have to come out?
Yeah.
So it is working.
Yeah, no, it works, yeah.
Okay.
But if you want us to send it to you, we
We'll
will.
send it to
Do
you.
you have email or,
Just your address. If we send something to your address.
Yeah.
You got his address then.
Yeah, 1632 Wilson.
We'll put it together and send it to you.
I'll send something to you. It'll come from me. That's my card.
Good enough.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wish to say anything? If not, we'll close the public portion of the meeting and move on to the consent agenda matters. First are the minutes from last meeting.
David.
Second.
Seconded. That was moved.
I'll move it anytime.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Okay, park vouchers. There are two. I had a question on one that's like $16,000 for a hood. I take it that was something that was done a while ago.
That was something that was already done. They actually took months to send their invoice in. I think that was done early, actually it was done last winter. So but they finally sent their invoice, so unfortunately.
Yeah.
Let's recycle that.
Maybe see if they want it back.
Lightly used. Gently.
And then the other one, there was a question I had, this is real minor, it was like $1,000 for the rental of a golf cart.
That is the Munster Civic Foundation pays for that. That's the rental of carts for the July 3rd celebration. Again, I don't know why it's such a
Yeah.
great invoice for.
Okay.
They rent 6 passenger ones so we can run from handicap parking at the hospital back and forth.
So that we don't use the ones from the golf course.
Only for staff, because they're only 2-seaters, and when you're driving someone, then every person needs their own cart running back and forth. So renting a couple 6 passengers able to get it done a little quicker.
Okay. That's all I had. Anybody else? Is that a motion?
Second.
Motion to approve the vouchers.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's see. We don't have the report. Not the first thing. So it's resolution 2021-6, amending the schedule for fees, charges, violations.
This is that annual Schedule A that the town council, this used to be included as part of the town council. Last year, Tricia had suggested, and you as the park board have the authority to approve this, so we brought it to you last year in December and are doing it again to you this year with the updated fees and charges. It includes the fall, winter, spring brochure fees, as well as all of our various fees. Many of them you've already approved earlier this year, like the social center increased room fees, the shelter fees. Anything that we charge for, we try to document, and that's a requirement that the State Board of Accounts has. So they want to see it in paper when they come to audit the town and ensure that every dollar we receive is somewhere been an approved fee by the correct board, in this case, Parks and Recreation. Oh, and we did also add with the, with taking back the shelter rentals and the wedding rentals, anything out at Centennial, those were added back into this for this year as well. So just again, to want to make sure, because those dollars will be now received and paid direct to us, whereas in the past, they were paid direct to Indigo.
How are those cancellations going with?
They're taking care. There was quite a bit of refunds, but they have all been sent their refunds from Indigo, and we had about 20,000.
But it was just about 62,000 refund, 20,000 to the other venues that the.
Okay.
was sent.
Yeah. So,
Thanks for doing it. That wasn't, I'm sure, an easy task.
no, that was a collective effort. Everybody really stepped up and helped, and Dustin included. Dustin ended up taking the bull by the horns and said, I'm calling them all. And he called every single rental throughout that we had on the books at one point and informed them. So there was a unified message going across to everybody who had something, canceled on them. So we wanted to make sure that was the case. So,
We're okay with the way the pool resident, non-resident is.
yeah, all the pool fees that are in here, you've already approved.
Yeah.
This is just kind of a secondary one. We wanted to make a one-stop shop, if you will, so to put it all in one document, but they're no different than what you've approved earlier in the year. So it's just kind of a secondary approval.
All right, and then I had another question. This, on the entertainment stage, you could rent it.
Yes.
Can the people that rent it charge a fee?
I think that would be difficult for them to charge a fee. I guess they potentially could if they wanted to manpower it and pay for the staff that would be necessary to do that, whether they collect it themselves or paid us and we hired enough staff to have out there for an event to do that. I think from my standpoint, and I kind of, if a situation like that came to us, I'd probably bring them on a case-by-case effort basis to you and let them present that, what they're looking to do there, because what I don't want to do is have people start to do this as a profitable venture on their own. And I think that that's something that, if that ever, we've never been asked of that, but if it does come up, that would be my answer to that person inquiring about it. Because I think that at that point, you want to really sit there and say, do we want to do this? I mean, and because at that point, you're losing some of the control of
And liability.
what's happening, the type of event, kind of music, kind of entertainment. That
Yeah,
might
well,
be
that's what I
out there.
thought about some band group that wanted to
Yeah.
put it on a concert. Could they charge a fee for people to come in and sit there and watch? They couldn't kick anybody out because it's.
Well, you could, but you could at least, like with our white fencing that we put up around out there, potentially go that direction. But again, I don't know if that's something that, everyone else, you can sit out right outside the fence and still hear the music. Yeah.
Right.
So,
But if they're doing that, Dave, they may have a crowd, we may need more people there working it. That should be a
Yeah,
contractual.
I just wondered if
Contractual.
anybody ever did it, because that's the first time I really
Yeah.
caught the fact that you could rent it if you wanted to. I don't know.
and what
I mean,
happens?
do people rent it?
Well, a couple of times they've had smaller events, maybe a scout troop has done the Pinewood Derby coming down the hill on the stage area there. They have had weddings there when Indigo was running it, smaller events like that, but I don't think we've had a lot of big musical types of activities there.
Okay.
And again, in my preference is any type of musical event, I think should be run only by the town. And that way we control the type of music that's being played. But to ensure that, it's going to be suitable for what's in the park there and all the amount of users in the park.
Okay.
So,
Anybody else have any questions? If not, we're gonna need a motion to approve, adopt the resolution.
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded, it's done by different people.
Try to shift it up a little bit.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. 2021-6 is now. That brings us to the architect RFQ.
I mentioned, a couple meetings ago, it was mentioned as we were talking about the clubhouse that we needed to look into an architect and get someone on. And so I mentioned last month's meeting at the report that I was working on it and drafting this, and what I brought to you is a draft of just an RFQ. I mean, and if this is something you want to move in that direction, where we bring somebody, an interview, or, you know, go through a process so we can select an architect. So if you're ready to engage, we have that, but at least that steps out of the way. I will tell you, Caleb, especially as a golf pro, is super nervous out there. Just, you know, like any day we come and tell him can't be in there, and where does he go? And obviously a building's not going to happen overnight if we wanted to do that, but I think that would be something if we wanted to have that. I don't know if we're getting a step ahead of what the town council feels, but it's something that I wanted to bring to you. If you wanted to go to this, I don't think that this hurts. I don't think that, you know, we could put this out there, see what kind of, you know, again, it's just asking for qualifications at this point. We don't have to do this, but I think that the town of Munster prefers that we, you know, don't have any no bid type of contract. So I think that this is an idea of, hey, who's out there in that profession, who can help us along in this if that decision's made, and then, you know, go from there.
I mean, why wouldn't we go just to do proposals? I mean, that's my personal thing. Qualifications, an engineer is an engineer. At first, when I read it, I was thinking, well, why
I
didn't
don't
that?
know, an engineer is an engineer.
Well, I mean, as far as building, like a structural engineer is gonna build, you know, the only thing that I guess we would probably need to determine is what we want to see in it. I mean, do we want the little hot dog stand, or, I mean, it's not gonna be big enough to house the golf carts, which is still the.
Where are those at?
Well, and I think that's a real major step though, because I think you almost have to find a way, and maybe part of this is if it's not in that same building, is building another building somewhere nearby to put them in. Because just as a, I can tell you just because I've driven it, to drive a golf cart from the golf shanty, as we call it, the little building by the driving range, to the maintenance garage, if that's where we store them, that's a 5-minute drive to get there. And so if I drive around there and Ron jumps in the cart and we drive it back, drop one off, let's go back, to go get 12 carts, that's an hour.
That's why I would say, let the engineers think of a way to do it and go, here, look, we want to store, how many golf carts we have? 35. We want to store 35 carts, we want a small area, kitchen area to sell hot dogs, and we need X amount of square feet to put up our stuff. You know, to put up our shirts and our golf balls and our whatever. Tell me what you want to put up there.
And I think they would help us through that conversation to help us define that truly. So once we find the right vendor that we want to work with, then we define that scope better.
Yeah.
Because you're right. I mean, the scope is still, well, what if? And you know, if there's a way to salvage the existing building, then maybe we don't need to do something. But if
I don't
that
think
is
that's
so.
gonna be.
But I haven't heard that anywhere official yet. So
I mean, logistically, from the golf side of the thing, having a building all to itself is a whole lot better and probably cuts down on a whole lot of people skipping through and doing stuff that.
everybody's in agreement there. Everyone's.
So that's what I think you just,
Yeah.
look, there's a bunch of engineer people out there. Tell me
We
what
should
you
have
think.
to start the conversation with our people and the engineers and get an idea. I think.
But
we should
Jill's
start
not a
with
structural, is she? She's civil.
No, yes, she's a civil engineer. Yeah.
civil.
That's why, I mean, I get the request for qualifications, but you're just gonna get a bunch of people say, here's my resume, and I built a bunch of these things. Then the next step is, you were saying, who's out there that's worried, Craig, not Craig,
The previous.
Caleb.
Okay.
You know, I mean, so the people I talked to in the construction world said, I was just explaining to them what sort of the parameters like. There should be enough material for that out there in the world. You're not building a high rise, you're just building a simple structure, so. I'd rather do it sooner than later, but to the point is, we need to determine if we want storage. Or maybe that's an add-on, like, okay, build a building and then tell me what the additional storage would be. Whether that's sort of like Wicker Park where it's immediately adjacent to,
Right.
does it need to be heated? Does it need electric?
Use electric.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm.
Right. So what,
And I,
are you suggesting this shouldn't be the first step or?
I mean, you can do it this way, just gonna take longer because Mark's gonna get a bunch of resumes and fancy 3-ring binders that say that they did nice things all over the country. The next thing is, we should really put it on the engineer to go, look, you wanna go build something. Tell us what you wanna design in theory, and then we select one of them, and then Mark works out the nuggets.
and I think that's, if we didn't have the issues out there already, if everything was fine and dandy, we wanted to do this anyways, we would have gone back probably to the same architect that was out there initially, right? Because that one's not gonna be in the mix here. This is kind of that starting point. That's the way I envision this. But at that point, I think it's a matter of picking whoever it is and saying, hey, let's sit down and start having those meetings where, if the initial one is that, we engage them in some form or fashion, even if it's bringing them in and saying, hey, do start doing some concept design by talking to the staff and out at the golf course with park staff, town staff, and then also taking into account the issue of being on that hill. So, where can you build, what can you
We do that with our bridges. I mean, we tell engineers, tell us what you want. Tell us what you think, and then we'll sort of look at it and go, all right, we'll work with you and we'll figure out some of the details.
I think if we start this process and we'll see people are up there, so next year's golfers know that we're thinking of them and we're starting to do something up on that hill, I think that would be a good public relations thing.
So, and I'm fine with that, and that was one of the dilemmas that I had, Dan, was your comment. I mean, and again, the request for qualifications, or should it be more, you're suggesting a request for proposals already?
Right,
Get
I
us a
get it.
proposal idea.
I understand the RFQ point. I mean, you have to have some experience knowing what you're doing, but I'm just trying to save you from all the binders of things, and then you're gonna end up going, okay, well, now I'll do a proposal. You put it on, I would say, put it on them. Tell them what we want to have. We want to have a clubhouse. We want to have a small area to shoot some hot dogs, maybe an office area. And the second part is we might need some storage for about 40 or 50 golf carts. But have at it. And they're gonna say, do you have soil borings? No, we don't worry about that. I want to see what you envision right now. Soil borings and all that other stuff is secondary.
I think that's,
And it will quicken the pace,
I think that's good, Ron.
and that will allow them to use their brain a little bit and help us maybe, because none of us believe, I don't think anyone here believes that building is gonna still stand the way it sits now, at least for a while. So,
Well, let me take this, if it suggests a path here is let me take this draft back and I'll revise it and do a request for proposals, and I should be able to bring that to you at your next meeting.
All right, that sounds good, thanks.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah,
I should
no,
have,
that's okay.
maybe I should have
No, I
emailed,
think-
I don't know.
I'm
That's
okay.
good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, yeah.
Okay, pool boiler replacement.
Yes, we have, the initial pool boiler is still in place out at the pool. It's gone through 20 seasons out there, and this is what warms the water of the pool. So
That's the original.
the original pool heater, if you will, the pool boiler. We had
What's the
noticed
life expectancy?
anything
Those boilers
HVAC
could
wise.
go pretty long.
Well,
right?
commercial grade is typically 15 to 20 years. And I think the fact that we got 20 years out of it is pretty good. You're starting to see some worn parts inside rusting out, kind of the,
Manifolds.
the manifold inside. It's just, and we've put a few more dollars into it the last few years. We've probably spent over $1,000 each year getting it repaired in the middle of the season, and then of course it's down for about a week. An aged machine has delayed parts. Of course, right now it's even harder seemingly. I think we were down just over a week this year when it went down. So, and then of course it's kind of one of the things I asked staff earlier this year was, what can we do to make ourselves more efficient in places? And just like we did all the LED lighting before I came here, this is another one that we think a more modern day unit will be a lot more efficient out there. So, So we had this in our mind, Kevin last week, and he had dropped the idea to a couple of our HVAC contractors. Late last week, he got a call from one of them and said, hey, I don't know if you're still doing that or interested, but we're hearing from the manufacturers, the new year is bringing the 20% increase on everything. And so we're like, uh-oh. So Kevin tried to start getting proposals right away. We have one that came in, he had budgeted $40,000. We put this into our capital improvement list this year for the bond. In our review of the bond projects, there was enough of a balance in community park. Tricia had recommended we just use an existing balance from a previous park bond, which is available there for this still to do this. But right now we only have one proposal in hand, and we were waiting for two others. So our recommendation is that, yes, this is something we want to do, we want to get done, and we're looking to, if you can authorize, another piece of the puzzle here that comes into play is I only have the authorization as department head to go up to $20,000. So anything above that, Dustin can go up to 50, I could go ask him, but I'd rather bring it to you, which is what we're doing today, and have you authorize us to make a purchase for to award for a purchase and installation of a replacement pool boiler. And at this point to say not to exceed $42,000. We have one that already meets that threshold. We're hoping maybe one of these other ones goes save us even further down. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, we've already got that. So it's just a matter, we're not specifically awarding it to an individual contractor. The other part of this that's coming into play is this week, Friday, is our deadline for POs for this year. So we got a lot, that's why I'm bringing it to you kind of urgently here, last minute, but it'll save us probably $5,000 to $6,000 over that 20%.
Budgetarily, you don't have a problem.
Budget money is there in the 2019 park bond. We have the money available to cover that cost, yes.
And did we have plans for that money? Is that something else that we're now shifting?
Those are the monies that and Janice has been doing a lot of work on this, and we're going to be bringing it to you at some point here in the future. The money that it was earmarked for was either completed under budget, or something that between Kevin and myself that we looked at and said, this isn't needed any longer. We've gone beyond
So
that.
no one's being shortchanged.
No. We're not really taking anything, or it's something that we just said, this isn't part of the plan anymore. To be honest, some of our bonds have projects for the clubhouse. But those are all kept aside now. So, those are things that we could potentially tap if we had to.
I would make the motion to authorize to 50, I don't care, because if someone's listening right now and they're smart, they bid it 41.99.
Yeah, I know that, right.
And just, you guys, whatever between you and Kevin, figure out who the most responsive bidder is, and then when you get it and go. Because at the end of the day, you don't want it to go out in the middle of June, well, maybe June would be so terrible, but whenever we start to roll early and it's cold, then we have to do something. So that'd be my motion. I trust you guys.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
All right, I'll motion to end the meeting.
I'll second
Adjourn the
that.
meeting.
Do the work. Motion to end has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank
So
you
when's
all.
our, we're December 21st.
Okay.
Is that our Christmas